And here
All
we go.
right, here we go. Welcome to Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Lord of the Rings. My name is Justin, and I'm joined, as always, by your host with the most, Mr. Man About Town, Mr. Producer and writer of Ringers Lord of the Fans, and co-author of The People's Guide to J.R. Tolkien, Mr. Clifford Broadway.
Namaste. It is so good to see you guys. Welcome, everybody. Doing a tribute to the early 80s, because obviously that's me. And this is a wonderful new episode of Torn Tuesday. Yes, I know, even you're bringing it. Justin is there with us. My name is Clifford Broadway, also known by the avatar and nickname Quickbeam that I've used over 25 years at theonering.net. And as always, we are very happy to introduce you, the live audience, coming to us live across many platforms, including Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all the lovely places in between. Not to be outdone, but our membership at Discord, our The One Ring Net Discord server, is absolutely a powerhouse of great people, great community, and conversation. And here, another extension of that community, as we bring you news and views from across the globe. All the news that's fit to print, as they used to say. And did someone say Skeletor? Yeah, I would jump in, but we did the conversation about Masters of the Universe a couple of weeks ago. But here, for David Lynch fans, may he rest in peace, we're referencing the Bene Gesserit. Yes, that's right. The Bene Gesserit Spice Girls from Arrakis. And for you new wave British pop people out there, ABC, the greatest 80s pop band of all time. Absolutely fantastic to have you here. Justin, are you going to bring us some kind of Green Dragon gossip early in the show? Or
I think so. Look, the title show we got are the sleuths on our Discord are incredible,
yes. They are.
We were first to tell you guys about some casting announcements and some this or that weeks before it was officially announced. So some gossip came in today, and I think we should just lead with it. Cliff, fans on our Discord discovered that a big actor who's been in huge franchises has started following Eddie Marsan. And if you remember who Eddie Marsan is, of course Eddie
Marsan, who we assume his casting is going to be in Khazad-dûm, maybe as the missing brother to Prince Durin IV.
That's right. He was cast. Yes. He was announced as joining the cast of season 3 of Rings of Power alongside Jamie Campbell Boyer, JCB, as his friends know him. So Eddie Marsan was recently followed by this big actor. I'm a huge fan of. Also, not only has he started following Eddie Marsan, who just joined Rings of Power, he follows Morpheth and Owain. He follows Owain Arthur, who plays Durin, and he follows Galadriel herself, Morpheth Clark. Cliff.
Really? Tell me.
Do you want to know this big name that we are going to Green Dragon gossip for now, but
give me the gossip.
But not only is he following 3 actors from Rings of Power, the Rings of Power casting company is now following him.
Oh, well, if that doesn't seal the deal, then I don't know what does. You can definitely take this to rumor category and push it over to confirmed rumor territory if this is the case. Tell me, who is the connecting thread? Who is it?
Well, Cliff, would you be excited? Oh man, would you be excited?
Come on. Oh my God, come on.
Let me put your face on. I'm gonna put your face on screen. Would you be excited?
Oh my God, okay. This is too funny.
To see this guy join the cast of Rings of Power Season 3, and I want you to tell me What race of character do you think he will play? Also in the
Okay.
chat room, as soon as his face comes up, I want you to tell me what race of character do you think he will play? Cliff Broadway, you're on screen right now. But the Green
Oh
Dragon
God.
Gossip is with 4 new follows on Instagram related to the show. We're gonna Green Dragon Gossip that possibly joining season 3 of Rings of Power is none other than Benedict Wong.
Oh my God, he's the coolest! Holy moly, that is the coolest. And I'm not just casting a spell to put, giant holes in the universe so we can have Endgame Avengers come back and fight Thanos. I'm literally going to tell you that he's one of my favorites. He is the character actor who can also do leading man stuff. He is awesome. He is all around awesome. I think this is the coolest thing. Why on earth haven't we thought of this before? Now, honestly, I'm kicking myself. Why didn't we fan cast him before now? Because he's brilliant. He can do anything. He can do supporting role. He can do lead role. He is like the everyman's man. And I love him, and I love his work, and I love his humor, his sensibilities and his humor, the way that he plays his characters with that organic quality of wink, wink, I know what I'm doing here. Nobody can replace that. He's awesome. This is a really cool idea.
Wink wink thing
Wait,
that you just
hold on.
said.
The whole audience in the live chat is screaming, make him a blue wizard. I am 110% down. Make him a blue wizard. I'm gonna die. This is, if I can't get Ken Watanabe, then I've got Mr. Wong. I can do it here. I can say that now. He's awesome.
Cliff, he is not the first Sorcerer Supreme to join Middle Earth.
Could you say that fairly? Yes, that's true. The first Sorcerer Supreme was Smaug, the dragon Smaug himself, as played by Benedict Cumberbund. Sorry, I can't stop making that joke. Mr. Cumberbatch.
Snickerdoodle Cumberbatch, right?
Snickerdoodle Cumberbund. I love Benedict. He's great. But Steven, all right, you guys can just kick my ass all the way down the street now because I'm done. Stick a fork in me. I'm done. What a great idea. Now, here's the thing. If this rumor ends up being true, why wouldn't the studio, Prime Video, stand on top of the mountaintops with the trumpets and blast all the trumpets and bring down the walls of Jericho? Why wouldn't they do that? Seriously, this should be Prime Directive number 1 is telling the world that you've got him involved. This is so cool.
The first reaction to from fans in Discord, including our intrepid admin Varking, who
Varking is brilliant.
Varking says he is a dwarf lord. There are 7 dwarf lords that we need to be introduced to, and 7 dwarf lords that take rings of power. The show is called Rings of Power. Okay.
Yes.
I do not want him as a blue wizard. I don't think he works as a blue wizard, and I think being a blue wizard is too close to him playing a wizard in Marvel. We couldn't
have another show without a big point of contention between you and me, and I'm telling you, Justin, come on. That's pretty cool to think he could be a dwarf lord who gets one of the 7 rings, but why would you say no to him being Alatar or Palando?
He's already been a wizard. He's a wizard in the Marvel movies. I don't need him to be another wizard. He is an incredible actor, and you said it on the nose just a few minutes ago that his wink wink personality, acting style, where
it's great.
It's great. And that is exactly what we want out of our dwarves. And that's the characterization that Middle Earth dwarves have so far brought to the table with Billy Connolly, John Rhys Davies, and of course our wonderful Owain Arthur. That is the type of attitude that wink, wink, nod, nod. I'm in on the joke. Let's have some fun with this character. I want that out of a dwarf actor. I do not want that out of a wizard right now.
Fair enough. That's totally fair enough. I get it. But it is exciting that they're bringing in a star like him, and he has such an instant brand recognition with Marvel. Everybody instantly makes that association. So maybe this is even better for his career. At this point in his career as an actor, that he can shift gears, like even Kieran Hines, who was Game of Thrones, and now he's an Eastern wizard of unknown name and unknown type. We still don't know if Kieran Hines is the weird proto Saruman or if he's one of the missing two blue wizards. But for any actor like that, using Kieran Hines as an immediate example, and also using Robert Arameo as another secondary example, to go right into The Lord of the Rings as the big IP after already being familiar to the massive fan base of the other IP.
Well,
In that case, it could be Marvel or
I'm
Game of
gonna
Thrones.
further
But
shut you down
seriously,
on the wizard talk because Tolkien describes the wizards as always appearing as old men. There's no such thing as young Gandalf and young Saruman and young Alatar. They always appear as old
true,
men. Even in the
true,
East, they adopt
true.
physical characteristics of the local cultures that they drop into, but they're always old men. Benedict Wong is not an old man, and he doesn't read as an old man on camera. Not
Not at
like
all. Not
Kieran
at all.
Hines, not even like our stranger. So I don't think he's a wizard, and I don't want him to be a wizard. Your thoughts
Okay.
on the idea that he has to be an Easterling or a race that we haven't met yet in Middle Earth
Well,
movies?
there's a lot of dwarven lords, a lot of them, because in all honesty, with all of the Peter Jackson films, animated films, and the recent TV series, all of our exposure has just been to the Longbeards of
That
Durin, Durin's
that's
folk.
right. Oh,
So
a bunch of people have just joined us. Let me just catch up with guys real quick. We're
so
leading
many
the show
others.
with Green Dragon Gossip here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
According to a bunch of new follows on Instagram, the casting agency for Rings of Power started following this actor, and then this actor is now following three actors from Lord of the Rings: Galadriel, Durin, and a new character, that's being played by Eddie Marsan, that was just announced. And this actor, who now has 4 connections to Rings of Power Season 3, is Benedict Wong.
I'm so happy to hear this. This makes me really happy. Um, you have people who have the love or hate relationship with Rings of Power, and me, I'm the ambivalent one. I have both. I have both a love relationship and a upset relationship with Rings of Power, and I don't want it to be that way. I don't want to be ambivalent anymore. I just want to really enjoy it, and to
What do you
have
think about
ben-
TD
to
Matthew
have
in the chat
Benedict
room?
Wong come in is going to bring things a lot closer towards. Wow, we're in the wheelhouse of real, like, real
Real
handling
filmmaking. Real
of,
filmmaking.
yeah, because this man has such experience and he's such a veteran to everyone who loves the Marvel universe, the
Do you
Marvel
like the idea that
cinematic
the
universe.
TD Matthew says, could he get the Lonely Mountain ring? Could he be related to a Throro ancestor?
He could be related to some of the dwarves that went much further east into the Red Mountains, also known by the elves as the Orocarni. There were now what I'm going to have to do, since I would really like to do this, we're going to do a quick um, search for the 7 dwarf lords, and they are as follows: the Longbeards, the Firebeards, the Broad Beams, Iron Fists, which would be appropriate, the stiff beards, black locks, and lastly, the Stonefoots. The Stonefoots. Given that all of the experience we have in Hobbit, Lord of the Rings adaptations, and I mean across the board, whether it's Ralph Bakshi in the 70s or what we currently watch now, right now in 2025, all of the dwarves we've been familiar with are from Durin's line, the Longbeards of Khazad-dûm, and that includes Thorin Oakenshield and Gimli, son of Glóin. So there's a lot of other, there's a hell of a lot of other dwarven characters to meet. And is it not true, Justin? Correct me if I'm wrong, but we have, on the odd occasion, bemoaned the absence of other major kings of men and dwarven lords of the dwarves who we should have been introduced to in season 2, but we never got introduced to them in season 2. So now there is the burden on the television series to do a lot of quick legwork to introduce other important people who will have rings of power distributed to them. In fact, I'm backing you up on this, Justin, and how lovely and rare it is to do this. But I'm backing you up on the point that the name of the show is The Rings of Power. That is the actual title of the show. So it is a bit mystifying to me that we haven't seen in season 1 or season 2 any of the other recipients of rings except for what we think are fan speculations. We have pretty aggressive fan conspiracy theories about whether Theo or other characters X, Y, or Z are going to be recipients of the Rings of Power when they do get distributed. But now, because they've turned the story a bit around onto itself, Prince Durin now has possession of all 7 dwarf rings, and it's going to be up to him, or perhaps up to his brother who has yet to come on stage, to engineer the distribution of these rings of power. And I'm willing to see it, and it should be high-end actors who are very well known, who come into these positions of power and get these rings, because we'll be talking about it forever. We'll be talking about it forever. Oh yeah, Benedict Wong was one of the dwarf lords. He actually got one of those rings, So there's still speculation about Theo, about whether he will be, the Witch King. And there's speculation about other
I don't think
members
I don't think
of the
he's
South,
a Witch King.
Southlanders. I think Theo is going to be the
So
Witch King.
do you
all
think
the way
he's a
through.
so do you think Benedict Wong, if he's a dwarf, let's stay on the dwarfs, because Varking really liked this idea of Benedict Wong's dwarves. The Firebeards
They lived in
and
the Blue Mountains.
and the
Yeah, they're not one of the ones who went to the Red Mountains far to the east.
so yeah, the Firebeards and the Broadbeams were paired,
Yeah,
according to Tolkien Gateway here. And it says,
okay.
in the Second Age, the Firebeards and the Broadbeams who lived in Belegost left the destruction behind and came to Khazad-dûm, increasing its wealth and power.
Indeed.
What does that mean? What does that mean when the Firebeards came to Khazad-dûm and increasing its
Because
wealth and power?
because they didn't found it. The foundational effort to make Khazad-dûm exist was all entirely by Durin, the original, and he looked into the mirror outside of the east gate of Moria before it was even founded as a kingdom.
So the
of
Firebeards, so
Khazad-dûm.
they come to
He
Moria,
saw
basically.
himself in the reflection. Yeah, let me finish. He saw himself in the reflection of the water with the stars above his head making a crown. So he thought that was the place to build Khazad-dûm.
Is Billy Connolly's dwarf from the Hobbit movies a Firebeard?
No, I believe that there was a different branch of these dwarf lords who settled in the Iron Hills.
Oh, that's right.
Let me look this up for you.
Uh,
Okay.
Okay, compared to Firebeard, if I look at another house of dwarves, the Stiffbeards were the dwarves that dealt dwelt in Rune. Cliff, is Rune supposed to be Asian looking?
Do you know it? It also says that the Longbeards, which were a direct family relation with Durin, established their kingdoms in the Iron Hills in the year 2590 of the Third Age.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, that helps.
So
That helps explain things.
so with the stiff beards, so the location of four Dwarven clans including stiff beards who lived in the east are unknown.
That's
So
true, because
so
Tolkien didn't bother to really specify that. Yes.
So this is opportunity for McPain and Rings of Power to really explore. The distance between their mansions in the east and the Misty Mountains, specifically Gundabad, was said to be as great or greater than that of Gundabad's distance from the Blue Mountains. It is possible that the Stiffbeards were among the houses of other fathers who sent troops to help Durin's folk in the war of the dwarves and orcs.
Yes, quite possibly true. You'll have to excuse me from the camera for 1 second. Justin, please come in because I've got to step away for just 2 seconds. Thank you.
All right, we'll do this.
Give me 1 quick second.
Yeah. So, folks, again, if you're just catching up to us, the Green Dragon Gossip is Benedict Wong, who you'll recognize from Doctor Strange movies, might be joining. This is Gossip, might be joining Rings of Power. And the first inclination that some of our well-sourced fans in Discord are inclined to believe that Benedict Wong will be a dwarf. And so now we're discussing the options for dwarves. So four of the seven clans that Tolkien wrote about dwarves. Remember, there are 7 rings for the 7 dwarf lords. We've seen the 7 rings, haven't we? So 4 of those 7, Tolkien didn't really write about. 4 of them live in the East. Okay? They live in the East and they come back and help Durin's folk during the Big War. But it is the Firebeards and the Broadbeams that are written that in the Second Age, they do come to Khazad-dûm. And they increase its wealth and power. And that's how Moria and the dwarves of Moria become the great dwarven society. So this is really interesting, Benedict Wong. Let's take a look at the chat. What are people saying here? Everybody says, I'm just really excited to see the design for the different dwarf clans. I am too. And I think it's, if for anyone that just saying that he has to be an Easterling, lacks imagination, because all of the races, elves, dwarves, wizards, they all have a full diaspora. Is that the right word? Of people, of people that look like they live in different parts of Middle Earth. So we shouldn't limit Benedict Wong here to just playing the race of men. And although Cliff got really excited, and some people in the chat got really excited about him being a blue wizard from the East, I don't think he's young enough. I don't think he's old enough, because all of the wizards are supposed to look like old men. So Durin the Seventh says, Broadbeams and Firebeards lost most of their homes at the end of the War of the Wrath. That's right. So I think this is a good chance that not only is Durin's brother going to show up, as they teased at the end of the season, Durin's brother possibly being played by Eddie Marzan here on the right. So Eddie Marzan officially announced as joining the cast of season 3 Rings of Power. He very much could pass as a brother of Owain Arthur. So there you go. I think we have our brother of Durin, but
yes,
if we're gonna look at a Firebeard or a Broadbeam also coming to claim a ring, Benedict Wong is inspired casting, and this is exactly the type of star power that this show has needed from the start. Don't you think, Cliff?
I fully agree. You'll have to forgive me for the distraction, but I
We don't care
agree
about the
totally.
distraction. We care
This is
about your thoughts
this
on
is my
the
this is my
star
thought on
power.
this casting. It's absolutely brilliant, moving along, and it is brilliant for many reasons. Fan familiarity from an already um, established franchise that people love, and as a character actor who can also do leading man, and that's not easy to say for many types of character actors. There's a lot of them that cannot do both. They're strictly character actors. They can't be leading man types. So, I mean, this is, you know, to say to the extra credit of Benedict, he's really talented and recognizable, but he has a certain elan. He has a certain style, and it would be ideal to match his energy, his performance energy, with one of the ruling members of a great dwarven clan. Absolutely love it. I love everything about this.
Cliff, why
Um,
did it never occur to me until now that both of these actors are named Benedict?
I knew that all along. People make jokes about that for years. I
Okay.
mean, that's an old joke, but yeah, that's an old joke. It's really quite funny. There's great people in the live chat who have recognized that the broad thank you During the Seventh, that Broadbeams and the Firebeards lost most of their homes at the end of the War of Wrath, and that should be mentioned as a Silmarillion story where all of the land to the west of the Blue Mountains was destroyed and sunk under the waves after the downfall of Morgoth, and the Valar came and caged him up and put him outside the doors of night under chains, never to be released until the end of the world, when he might come back and issue one final challenge to the Free Peoples and the Valar themselves. But it
Cliff,
is
question on uh streamlining the show Rings of Power. I think it's quite obvious that everyone is universally agreed that the best storyline in Rings of Power are the dwarves. It's well written, it's well performed, the effects are incredible. The dwarves
true.
have the sauce. Do you like the idea of season 3 leaning way more into dwarves and letting season 3 be a lot about the 7 rings of dwarves? That's a huge storytelling opportunity that is just not explored, because we know what
Mm.
happens with the 9 rings of men. They all turn to Nazgul. Like, we already know that. But I feel like the 7 rings of dwarves, there's a lot of storytelling opportunity here. And do you think this is a sign that we're going to get some good original storytelling here?
Yeah, I do think so. Absolutely. Um, I'm also thinking that there's um, an opportunity for them to catch up on lost time. With 2 seasons under their belt, they're still busy mystery boxing who might or might not receive a ring of power. But they let their hand slip. They revealed their poker hand a little bit by changing things up and letting one single central dwarf lord, that would be Durin the Third, who, as we know, met his fate with the Balrog in season 2. But to have all 7 dwarven rings in one central location with only one point of distribution means that, against our familiarity with the lore, yet again, they've created a new path to storytelling by doing something that is wildly different from the books. For good or for ill, this now means that the dwarf lords are themselves responsible for the distribution of these rings, and thematically, it makes the dwarf lords more responsible for what happens to them in that regard. It takes a little bit of the blame, so to speak, Like, the blame is not so easily placed at the feet of Sauron, the Dark Lord. It's more accurate to say that that the Dwarf Lords are now going to seal their own fate and seal their own deal by self-distribution of the rings, the 7 that they have. Well, let's just assume that there's only 6 to go around. Let us automatically start with the fact that Durin the Fourth is going to take one of the 7 and yeah, what do you think? He's going to take one of the 7. That means there's 6 more to go.
And there's 6 more groups of
Yes.
dwarves, right?
Yes, there are. And as we have discussed so far in today's show, some of them really do have their history tied up in Khazad-dûm because they left Nogrost. They left the earlier kingdoms that were sunk under the waves after the War of Wrath. And there was a whole new coastline. That new coastline moved from the outer edges of Beleriand on the farthest west all the way up to the Blue Mountains. And that's where Lindon and the Grey Havens were founded by the elves. But those dwarven kingdoms, they left and joined Khazad-dûm early in the Second Age and increased their power and population. So, yeah, I did hear that, Durin. There was a little bit of something in the background of the audio that we heard somewhere. I don't know if you heard that too, Justin, but it was interesting. I think the best thing about Benedict Wong coming in, again, for the sake of repeating myself, is that he has such recognition with geek properties. I mean, wow, he is so recognizable to so many geeks for so many great reasons. And he is relied upon a great deal when Marvel Cinematic Universe is branching out to do other films, other stories. They very often rely on Benedict Wong to come in and be the connective tissue between one film set or another film set. So it's really great to see him, flex out, spread his wings a bit, and come under the auspices of the Tolkien intellectual property. I'm totally down for this.
All right. I hear you guys. I'm working on this audio thing. I hope I fixed a couple things.
Okay.
I did notice that the audio meter goes bump in the night. So
it actually sounded like you were having a muffled conversation with someone in the background.
Weird.
A little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, don't trust the AI studio voice enhancement plugins.
No, don't trust anything AI in general, or we're going to end up with Skynet. So yeah, don't trust.
All right, let's move on to the next big gossip that I wanted to bring up. So we've got this other casting, right? Jamie Campbell Bower.
JCB to his friends. Yes,
that's right. So what happened here? Oh,
I don't know. Here. There was an old lower third that just appeared briefly. That was interesting.
Yeah, that was weird. So, all right. Everyone's immediate reaction was like, finally, Celeborn. Finally, we're getting someone that could be Celeborn. And I want to remind everybody that, as far as we know, Celeborn is dead in the show. They wrote it that way. That's how they set it up. His bio, Jamie's bio on social media is Witch King. He plays Vecna. He plays a bunch of bad boys. That face is serving evil. I don't know how you guys can think that this is the love of Galadriel's life. So the next thought is he Glorfindel? Now, follow me here, because a few weeks ago, the role that he supposedly has been cast in had a code name, Arlen. Cliff, do you remember that? It was Arlen was the code name for the character, and do you remember that it was described as a mid-30s highborn knight?
Highborn knight. And we actually had a discussion about the etymology of the word knight and the fact that it's not a word that's even used by Tolkien. Yes, we did talk quite a bit about that.
Right. Yeah. So mid-30s highborn knight, and the code name is Arlen. Cliff, what happened to Glorfindel in the Peter Jackson movies?
The character was replaced by Arwen. It is Arwen herself who makes a mad dash westward across the ford and goes to meet with the wayward Strider and the four hobbits. And it is her who brings Frodo all the way back eastbound towards the ford of the Bruinen. And that is one of the rivers that borders the hidden valley of the elves in Imladris. So yes, that would be a big change.
Here's an
it was
artist.
Glorfindel who was sent out, not Arwen who was sent out.
Yeah, so the big horse chase scene that we see in Fellowship of the Ring, that was Arwen calling the river, to drown the Nazgul. That's actually Glorfindel, that in the books.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And he was replaced by Arwen.
Correct.
Replace one letter in Arwen's name, you get Arlen.
Oh,
the code name for Jamie Bowers casting.
Aren't you clever?
So
there might be a hidden meaning in there.
So and then I was talking to Matt, Nerd of the Rings, and he said check out this video. Let's play this clip.
Yes. We then see a single flower begin to bloom out of the dead tree, and the stranger gets an apple for the road from Nori as he heads on his way. Back with Theo and Galadriel, and Theo asks Galadriel if she's ever lost someone to orcs, and she reveals Finrod, which I think we all expected. But then she drops the bombshell that her husband Celeborn went to war and never returned. There's a lot to unpack and theorize here, so we'll take it a point at a time. First off, no, I don't think Celeborn is actually dead. It wouldn't make the slightest bit of sense for Celeborn to be dead. So I think this is a fake out and Galadriel just believes him to be dead. That being said, I could see the show swapping Celeborn for a fan favorite character who is no stranger to being omitted. Glorfindel, who was replaced by Arwen in the Peter Jackson Fellowship of the Ring adaptation, was an elf whose self-sacrifice earned him a speedy re-embodiment by the Valar. He was then one of the only elves ever to be re-embodied and returned to Middle-earth. Glorfindel returns to Middle-earth around 1600 of the Second Age, around the same time the Blue Wizards appear. Now what I could see the show doing is truly having Celeborn be dead, but having him taking Glorfindel's place and being re-embodied and sent back to Middle-earth. It would.
Your thoughts on the show doing the same thing Peter Jackson did and replacing Glorfindel again with this guy as Celeborn / Glorfindel.
Yep, that could be interesting. That could be very interesting. Having Glorfindel replaced again. Quite interesting. But I do agree with Matt, Nerd of the Rings, that it is a fake out and Celeborn is not really dead. And I don't know why you so emphatically said 10 minutes ago, Celeborn, excuse me. 10 minutes ago you said Celeborn is dead. That's the way they've written him. But they've just written a mystery box. That's what they've really written. And it is still, believe it or not, part of the fabric and the mortar and the bricks of this entire TV series to plant mysteries without really telling the audience what's going on. And I suppose you have to have a very discerning palate for that.
Well, look at the chat room saying, everybody said, I can see them doing that and I wouldn't hate it, but I also really feel sorry for Glorfindel not getting his moment in the spotlight for a second time. I don't like this, but I can see it happening, and the likelihood I think is stronger than ever. I think everybody wins if Celeborn really is dead, as the show says in season 1. But as the history of Glorfindel shows, Eru himself sends Glorfindel back to life. It's a resurrection. So Celeborn is dead. Celeborn gets resurrected just like Glorfindel does. So he is dead, but he does come back alive. Cliff, are you okay with this retconning? And and by the way, I seem to recall the excitement that you and most fans had over the thought that we might finally get Glorfindel on the big screen, and that was one of the big misses of Peter Jackson's movies. Are you upset that we just might not get Glorfindel again?
No, I'm not upset about anything at this point. It's water off a duck's back. I'm fine. I mean, the Rings of Power is already established as doing its own thing, and they just want to do their own thing. So, I'm not riled up about anything anymore. Trust me. But I do think that the fulfillment of that dialogue in season 1 saying, oh, we never found his body and, he never returned. I think that was a deliberate point in the story that is going to be fulfilled by Celeborn coming back and surprising her. And therefore, it contextualizes why they used valuable screen time to even talk about Celeborn's absence. They didn't talk about Celeborn's absence between, Theo and Galadriel just for the sake of bringing back Glorfindel. So I might have a differing opinion from Matt and you, but I get the feeling that Celeborn is definitely going to come back just as regular Celeborn. Having Glorfindel around is a beautiful concept, and I've always been pro Glorfindel, but it should not be done at the expense of having a real elf there as a real husband, because they're tying it. They've already visually used the Balrog, and they've used all these elements from Peter Jackson's films. So why would they tie it into Peter Jackson's films and yet have Celeborn remain dead? That wouldn't tie into the original 3 films at all. Celeborn was played by Martin Sokas and definitely is there when the Fellowship meets him and Galadriel together in Lothlorien. So,
Here's another thing that a web crawler found. Cliff, the Thingol is Celeborn's uncle, right? And it says here, Thingol.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's just go clean. Thingol rewarded them with many fair pearls. These pearls Círdan gave to him, for they were got in great number in the shallow waters about the Isle of Balar. But the Naugrim had not before seen their like, and they held them dear. One there was as great as a dove's egg, and its sheen was as starlight on the foam of the sea. Nymphalos was the pearl's name, and the chieftain of the dwarves of Belagost prized it above a mountain of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how we start to connect everything. So we've met Círdan. We've met Círdan, right?
Yes.
We know he tends the sea. We also know that Jamie Campbell Bower tweeted a black heart with a white dove. Remember that tweet?
Yes.
So let me see if I can bring it up. Jamie Campbell Boyer tweeted Man, this UI is the worst.
Is it?
All right, Jamie Calabor, we're on his account. And look at that tweet, February 27th. On the announcement, he tweets a black heart and a white dove. Now let's go to the quote again that says, Círdan gave a pearl from the sea that was as great as a dove's egg. That pearl was named Nymphalos. And it was and it was given to the dwarves of Belagost. And Cliff, we just spent the top of the show talking about the dwarves of Belagost being played by Benedict Wong.
Quite possibly.
So there is a chance that Círdan gives a great pearl to Thingol, who gives it to Celeborn, played by JCB, and then that pearl ends up in the hands of the dwarves of Belagost, played by Benedict Wong. You following me, Cliff?
That's 4 degrees of Kevin Bacon. But yeah, I follow you.
And this is all... This all comes back to something that Tolkien actually wrote. So, and then it goes to Jamie's tweet with a dove. A dove, and then Tolkien's words, a dove's egg. A dove's egg given to Thingol by Círdan. Thingol is Celeborn's, possibly Celeborn. And then the pearl ends up in the hands of the dwarves of Belagost. And there we are, Benedict Wong, Green Dragon Gossip.
That is highly, highly convoluted and precarious line. That's very precarious. That line of connectivity is as thin as paper, my friend. It's kind of funny, actually.
But but do you like the idea of Celeborn inheriting plot mechanics of Glorfindel here?
That's happened before. That's happened with other characters inheriting what Glorfindel was supposed to do.
And now you understand. Now you understand why we say his code name, being Arlen, is one letter different than Arwen, who also replaced Glorfindel in the movies.
But the dove, his little black heart emoji and dove emoji is inscrutable. And I think it's just wishful thinking for you to try to connect it to Nymphalos, the great dove's egg-sized pearl. That's really stretching probability, to be honest. That's really really thin stretch. It is more likely that Glorfindel, if he were to make a surprise reappearance in later seasons of this series, then it would have been Glorfindel who was mentioned in dialogue, not Celeborn. It's a full 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes of dialogue talking about Celeborn, and Glorfindel has not been mentioned at all. So I'm kind of feeling more certain than ever by, you know what it is? Even Roger Ebert talked about this. Why would you bother with the economy of filmmaking? Why would you bother showing something in the first act if it wasn't going to be important to the third act of the film? And it's like algebra. It's really kind of true that you have very few minutes of storytelling, and all those minutes you have on screen are valuable. And just like Chekhov and the gun, if Chekhov shows you a gun on stage in the play in the first act, it's only because of the necessity of the audience understanding it's going to be there in the third act. So I'm going to say this is a Chekhov's gun kind of thing with Celeborn being mentioned. And I'm not willing to jump onto, Glorfindel is connected to the pearl, was connected to a gift that came from Círdan, the shipwright, who happens to shave his face with an oyster shell. Yeah, I can't do that line of reasoning.
Can you respond to one of the comments in the chat? Is Glorfindel necessary for the narrative of the show to get to the Third Age?
I don't know. That depends upon how much. If Glorfindel does appear, it would depend upon what they give him to do and how important it is to do it.
Fair.
Really. And we have yet to see seasons 3, 4, and 5. So there's plenty of room for Glorfindel to come in. And my goodness gracious. What?
For the record, I do not want Celeborn coming back. Okay, I would prefer that it's Glorfindel coming back.
I don't know why you say that.
I don't, because the show is much more interesting when Galadriel is dealing with her feelings of cosmic connection, and I think that that erases, having Celeborn come back erases an entire really great dynamic of the show that I really like, and it focuses her feelings. It focuses her feelings on something totally different, and also it's I don't know how the show handles a rekindling romance at this point. I don't know if I trust the filmmakers to do a rekindling of a romance correctly. And I'm thinking about all those movies. Thinking about all those movies where the husband gets lost for years and then suddenly reappears on the scene. And the thing that comes to mind right now is Castaway with Tom Hanks. Everyone believes Tom Hanks is dead. He gets rescued at sea after how many years? His wife Helen Hunt has moved on with her life, right? And like she has to, and some things are not meant to be rekindled.
Justin, come on. Everybody in the chat is correct. Why would Galadriel remain childless? I was going to say they need to do a major course correction from that really stupid, unfortunate kiss between Elrond and Galadriel. And aside from my desire to have a big course correction from that terrible narrative mistake with that unneeded, unnecessary kiss with his future mother-in-law, the reason why, and I'm with you, I'm with Storyteller 0111, and I'm with you also during the 7th. How can Galadriel remain childless and have Celeborn never come back? I mean, who is Aragorn going to marry in the future? Exactly what you said during the 7th. So Celeborn has to come back so that Celeborn and Galadriel can have children, so that Aragorn has someone to marry in the future, and more importantly, Galadriel is brought back from the brink of just being misrepresented entirely, which is one of the major unfortunate criticisms that's been launched against the series from the beginning, is how Galadriel's been misrepresented. But if you want to fix that, you bring her missing husband back, and then the story will start to course correct itself with his presence there. Now, Storyteller 0111, which may or may not be a binary language reference, his question in the chat was, how do they explain his absence? That's another extra burden on season 3 to explain where and why Celeborn has been gone for so long. So not only do they have the burden of introducing dwarf lords and distributing rings, they have to introduce kings of men and distribute rings. But now they also have to bring Celeborn back, and they absolutely have to do this because no one would accept Nobody in the fandom would accept Glorfindel coming back, and suddenly Galadriel's just gonna what? Hook up and marry him, instead of her previous husband? That's not how it's gonna work. So, people in the chat are correct.
We're not talking about Galadriel hooking up with Glorfindel. We're saying that Glorfindel is just doesn't exist again, and
fine, but
Celeborn is
has to
sent
come back instead of Glorfindel. You're advocating one over the other, and I'm telling you that they've already painted themselves into a corner. Celeborn must. It is an absolute imperative. Celeborn must come back.
And you're
again,
okay with him
Chekhov's
adopting features of Glorfindel?
If that's probably what they're going to do. That's because Glorfindel never gets a fair shake, and he never gets to come back. But yeah, Celeborn getting to be brought back will do a lot of course correction. It is Chekhov's smoking gun. Celeborn was mentioned in the first season, so he has to come back onto the stage. This is like microeconomics of screenwriting. It is what it is, really.
All right, fair. Another debate that came up in the fan community this week. Look, if Alan Lee said Sauron was half naked forging that ring, then as far as I'm concerned, that is the biblically accurate way for him to do it in the show. Cliff, your thoughts on this Alan Lee famous portrayal of Sauron forging the One Ring?
It's one of my most famous. It's one of my most favorite images from the impeccable and super famous Alan Lee. This is one of my favorite images of all time. And you know what? If in the Northmen, if they can fight against each other naked, and it's all fire and brimstone all around them while they fight, and they're naked, that's cool. It even happened in against Grendel and Beowulf. So yeah.
So would you be okay with nudity in Rings of Power? Because before season 1, when we heard about the intimacy coordinator, you went apoplectic and you wrote a whole article about nudity. Now you're saying you're okay
sex.
with it?
No, that was about sex. That was about representations of sexual intercourse. Nudity, which is not connected to, like the examples that I just gave you, fighting on the battlefield against your monstrous opponent, and you're Beowulf, and you're fighting against Grendel, and you have no armor, and you're going to kill him with your bare hands. That is so J.R.R. Tolkien. And that nudity is not nudity for the sake of titillation, and it's not there for sexual procreation. This is not what we're talking about. I went up in arms against sexuality, a completely unnecessary element of nudity and sexuality, but you won't need an intimacy coordinator for shooting something like this. He's just standing there at the forge, forging the powerful Horcrux, because J.K. Rowling stole the idea, whole cloth, from Tolkien. He's making the most powerful Horcrux of all time. Who needs clothing for that? It's totally cool. And I love this image. I think it's great. I got no problems with that.
I just want to quickly respond to last one in the chat room asking how would I see Arwen coming into being down the track. It's really simple. Adoption. There is plenty of historical examples of a powerful couple adopting a child in need or hiding a child, a powerful child, from the forces of evil, to change her name, to change her family. That way, it puts the bad guys off the scent of this incredibly powerful human being. So I'm okay with any of these children that need to exist in the Third Age. I'm okay with any of them being adopted into the storyline.
Okay, well, I don't remember Tolkien ever saying a single thing about elves adopting. It is actually the hobbits. It's Bilbo who adopts a very forlorn nephew of his, because Frodo lost both of his parents in a boating accident. So yeah, that's why that happened. I've got a very special surprise to show you if we're done with this subject before we go on to the next one.
Yes, sir.
Hardcover. The hardcover edition of The Art of the Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim, priced at an American retail value of $50. That's right, this is a $49.99. This is a $50 book written by the estimable Daniel Falconer from Weta Workshop, the great illustrator and artist who is a dear friend of ours. There's a foreword. The foreword to this book is written by the film's director, Kenji Kamiyama. And then the introduction, written by none other than Oscar-winning screenwriter Philippa Boyens. So this was an extraordinary gift from Jen. Boy, oh boy, this is cool.
Flip, do me a favor.
So cool.
Can you turn to page 96?
Do you see these weapons and these character designs? It is so cool.
Can you turn to page 96?
Okay, sure. And that was page 128. There's page 91, 95. All right, page 96. Wow, I serve a new commander, General Targ. There's General Targ on page 96. Can you see this?
Check his spelling. According to Tolkien and according to everything else I've seen, his name is spelled Targg.
It is. It's actually here. It's Tarrg in this book.
Can you check the fine print there? Can you make sure that it's spelled the same? Because I believe it's supposed to be Targ.
Nope. All the printing here in this book says Tarrg, and that means we should double check any element that is on IMDb and on the actual closed captions that are on the movie. All right, so here I am looking at the characters and the actors who are in these roles, and oh, you know what? It's typoed. It is Michael Wildman who plays General Targ, and IMDb has it wrong. We should assume that Daniel Falconer has it right.
Well, then why does the wikis all say Targg?
Because they were taking their information from IMDb. That's why. So
all right.
All somebody has to do is change it. If they change it on IMDb for Mr. Wildman, which is kind of funny, he's playing a wild man of Dunland, and his last name is actually Wildman. That's pretty cool indeed. The Wildman camps, they show all these. This artwork in this book is crazy, dude. There's, Gene, it's fabulous. I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying this. My downstairs neighbor had received the shipment, and he had the box downstairs for days and days, and didn't even tell me that he had received the box for me. And then suddenly he's like, "Oh, there you go." So, oh look, Leif.
Well,
Guard.
I don't know. Everything that I've seen on every website is
Tarrg from Dunland.
GG.
Yeah? Are you looking at it there on their website too, their official website?
Yeah.
Okay, because Tarrg here in this book. Wow. Cool. Really cool to see such early versions of the Tower of Isengard. This is so cool.
All right, this is as official as it gets. Here we are at the officially licensed Middle-earth strategy game from Warhammer. This is the War of the Rohirrim official set. And we go to Halahama, Wolf, General Targ Double G.
Yeah, really? Is that what it says there? Well, right here it's General Targ Double R.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to get to the bottom of this.
We need to talk to Daniel Falconer or one of our good friends from Weta.
Is there something?
Figure it out.
Is a table of contents? What does it say in the table of contents?
Okay, let me take a look. If there is a table of contents.
And by the way, General Targ is an original character for the show, for the movie.
Yes, that's true. Okay, the table of contents does not mention the exact character. It just mentions the chapters. Is there an index in the back? Nope, there's no index. But man, the artwork in this book is stunning. Oh man, Freylaf's coronation. Yeah, and they even they spoil the surprise. Page 253 spoils the big surprise at the end of the film. Saruman the White, with his character designs. And Freylaf's coronation. This is so cool. I'm really, really impressed with the level of detail they have. Even these different designs of the Billy and Dominic characters, Shank and Rot. You smell that? Or they can smell you all the way from Mount Doom. Here's Shank and Rot. They get their pages. This is so super cool. So I guess we better ask the powers that be. We could ask Artie Papagiorgio, or we could ask Daniel Falconer and see if we can figure it out.
All right, moving on. While we look at that up, let's take a look at this clip. Cynthia Ade Robinson, who is Tarmiriel in The Rings of Power, is featured in the new movie The Accountant 2 with John Bernthal and, of course, Matt Damon's best friend.
You know, I always wondered from afar what was going on, if there would be a sequel. And I had people asking me all the time, and I had no answer for them. So when I finally did get a call and get the script, I actually didn't really know how Mary Beth was going to play through this sequel. And I was just happy to be there, to be honest. I thought, maybe she shows up in the beginning and she kind of is like the link from the first movie to the second. And I was pleasantly surprised when I realized, oh, no, she's not only in there, but she's an integral part of what happens in the story. And I get to interact with all of the main characters and have these, really interesting moments with each one of them for various reasons. So yeah, just to be able to come back to something that has so much goodwill, because it's one of those projects that people constantly stop me and tell me how much they love the movie, how they're excited to see the sequel, how they've seen the first one so many times. It's very rare that you get to be part of something like that. So I was just, like I said, I was just honored to be asked back, to be honest.
So her profile is getting up there, but in another interview, she says,
I love The Accountant. That was a really badass movie originally. I actually have to admit, it was a really good movie.
In another interview, Cynthia said at South by Southwest that she's excited to get back into season 3. There's a time jump. When we return in season 3, we're going to be moving forward. That's all I know. I don't know much else, but I'm definitely excited to return to Middle Earth. So we love to see it. We love to see our Lord of the Rings family get work all over the place. So go check out The Accountant. The Accountant 2, which is coming out. Moving on.
There's some really cool storyboards in this book. Before we go, these storyboards are just so cool in this book. They're really cool. Oh my gosh. The more I look through this, the cooler it gets. This book is so insanely cool.
All right, while Cliff is playing with his book, The Wheel of Time, IMDb has outed Robert Strange, a.k.a. Glug from Rings of Power, is in Wheel of Time, Season 3, Episode 8. If you remember, Robert Strange was a focal point of the Rings of Power Season 2 marketing. They put him in magazines. They gave him articles about Robert Strange. He really was a focal point. He even went to Comic-Con. They even flew him to San Diego Comic-Con, and he partook in all the festivities with fans. Robert Strange was just was being centered for Rings of Power Season 3, and they have not yet mentioned him in the marketing of Wheel of Time, but the fans, of course, found him. So that's really exciting. Robert Strange from Rings of Power is in the Wheel of Time, which is getting incredibly good reviews. The new season of Wheel of Time is getting great reviews, and Amazon is firing on, Prime Video is firing on all cylinders.
So
bringing
this is
Wheel
season
of
3
Time
now for the Wheel of Time?
It is season 3 of the Wheel of Time.
Wow, okay. I'm gonna have to catch up and check it out.
Cliff, we reported a couple weeks ago. No, we reported last week that Andy Serkis said that Hunt for Gollum and all the future Lord of the Rings movies have been delayed at least a year, out to 2027. Here's why that makes me nervous. If you recall correctly, this is the opening scene to Two Towers, and I believe it reused some footage from Fellowship of the Ring, and also they reused some of this footage for the lighting the beacons scene in Return of the King. New Zealand has some of the most incredible glacier mountains in the world. And
Truly.
These helicopter shots helped make Lord of the Rings feel like a magical place. Look at that. The greens of the valley below and the mountains. Well, unfortunately, this new report, New Zealand's glaciers have already lost nearly a third of their ice.
Yeah. Yep. What a shame.
New Zealand is losing their snowpack. They've already lost a third of their glacier ice. And if we're looking at 2 or 3 more years away from the next Lord of the Rings film to be shot in New Zealand, I feel we're losing even more of that snowpack and those epic mountain and snowy vistas. Cliff, does the stories as you understand them with the Hunt for Gollum, are there any stories in the Lord of the Rings that could benefit from these snow-capped mountains and shooting near these glaciers? Or is this just a nothing burger?
So many of the stories benefit from taking a look at the world as if it were tens of thousands of years ago, wild and untouched by man. But if you're looking at aerial footage of a mountain where there's seriously visible the impact of mankind, then there goes your immediate level of immersion, don't you think?
I mean, what would they shoot on in the snowpack? Like, are there certain storylines or characters or places?
Well, yeah, if they're fighting against the Witch King of Angmar, that's in a geographical location very far to the north, with lots of snow-covered mountains. If they're going to do anything that introduces the worms, the ice dragons that come down from the withered heath and those northern mountains adjacent to Mount Gundabad, if they show the movement of the orcs going and populating Mount Gundabad, and all those things up in the northern areas, including other mountains where you're crossing. Now, people don't think of alpine snow on the slopes of the Mordor Mountains, which includes 2 separate mountain chains, the Mountains of Ash and the Mountains of Shadow. No one thinks about them as snow-capped alpine mountains, but most of the others you do. And I'm especially looking at any adaptation of the battles of the northern kingdoms and their civil war and their struggles with the Great Plague, the struggles against the Witch King, all that needs northern mountains. And this is a shame. It's really a shame because even in our own country, against the will of the law, which has environmental protections in place, but our current administration is planning to open up logging.
We're
and
talking
timber.
about snow-capped mountains in New Zealand. We're not talking about America. Tolkien never came to America, and nothing.
I am.
No Lord of the Rings
Thank
is
you,
ever
Justin.
shot in America. Thank you very much.
I'm talking about the reduction of 260 million acres of timberland
in
and
America
protected
that
wildlife
Tolkien
areas.
didn't care about.
Professor Tolkien was probably the most tree-hugging, environmentally concerned author of the late 20th century, comparable to no one. And I'll die on that hill.
And he never went to America on purpose.
And that's because he probably had lots of disagreements with certain things that were going on. Or maybe he just didn't like to travel overseas. Because
Or maybe he
never
just
really
didn't
did.
like America. Hey, big if true,
He just didn't
spotted
travel
this.
overseas in general, so you can make any weird generalizations
Well,
you
he
want,
went to
but
Italy. He went to South Africa. He lived in France. He went to a lot of places. Big if true, this covered Geekly just posted Nazgul are expected to appear in season 3 of Rings of Power. What do you think the truthiness of that post is, Cliff? Do you think we're going to see Nazgul this early?
I think that Tolkien was one of the most environmentally concerned authors of the late 20th century, bar none. And we can talk about that until I'm blue in the face, and I'll keep beating that dead horse until the Ents decide to wake up and march to war. The reduction of glaciers in New Zealand is a terrible thing, and it makes me wonder about what is happening to our Earth, because we are the caretakers, we are the guardians and caretakers, the custodians of this Earth, and I'm worried about that. And the reason why I learned as a little boy to worry about it was because I read The Lord of the Rings as a little boy, and I learned to prioritize environmental concerns in a very, very young mind because of how impactful Professor Tolkien's stories really were. And I think we would all benefit from learning from Tolkien's warnings in his stories. Now, moving on to this point, the Nazgul and the potential kings of men that could become ringwraiths should have appeared more frequently in seasons 1 and 2. So, to this rumor, I say, excellent. You're a little late in the game, but yeah, season 3 has a lot of catching up to do. Definitely, season 3 has a lot of catch up to do. And I'm not talking about tomatoes and vinegar. I'm talking about catching up with placement of these characters. They have to be recognizable, relatable. We have to a degree, understand their dilemma. Why would any character accept an evil ring from an evil Dark Lord? Because they're up against it. And we need to know why these characters are in a situation where they're quote unquote up against it, so that the appeal is naturally understood. The appeal of an offer to take a ring of power has to be much more understood by the audience based upon these men, these kings of men who lust for power, need more power, or they're operating out of an organic fear. Fear originally of Morgoth, and they've been fearful of him for many, 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 many centuries. And the seeds of that fear are what Sauron would prey upon. Definitely.
So you think we're going to see Nazgul already?
Yeah, we should have seen them before. We should have seen Nazgul before, and we better see a lot of them show up in season 3, or at least the characters.
They haven't even distributed the rings yet.
The characters that will evolve into ringwraiths have to be established, and I hope that they work with some of the existing season 1 and season 2 characters as well.
They haven't even distributed the rings. Other news this week, Warner Brothers is doing the good deed here and replacing DVDs impacted by disc rot.
Well, that's very good of them.
Yeah, so it's interesting, but these DVDs were supposed to have a shelf life of 100 years. The digital future, everyone talks about physical media and things disappearing, and DVDs are supposed to last 100 years. Well, it turns out that a bunch of DVDs manufactured between 2006 and 2009 are rotting away faster than normal. Warner Brothers is the first studio to step up, raise their hand, and say, "We will replace all of them." If you're
Very
being
good.
impacted by any DVDs, now Cliff, what would have come out on DVD in 2006?
Probably my motion picture, Ringer's Lord of the Fans. Probably mine. And in that frame, they weren't making the Hobbit movies yet. So in 2006, there would probably be the very last issuance of the extended edition of The Return of the King.
Yeah, there might have
that
been
point in time.
a reissue, not a reissue,
Yeah.
but just a reprinting.
Yeah, maybe a reprinting. Yes.
A reprinting, because the Lord of the Rings DVDs have been bestsellers for so long. So kudos to Warner Brothers for stepping up and taking care of that. So, dude.
Oh, hey, you know what? During the Seventh is right in pointing out that Sauron hadn't even made the rings for men, and that was literally the entire basis for the end of season 2, because Sauron was continuing to coerce Celebrimbor to make the 9 rings for men. Yeah, he coerced him into that at the very end of season 2. Yes.
Speaking of DVDs, Cliff, you mentioned about the Peter Jackson's mythical Unicorn Edition 25th anniversary of Lord of the Rings. Well, someone collected a bunch of scenes and said, you can tell we failed as a society because we didn't get all these deleted scenes of Arwen yet.
That's right.
And
all those
let's
Arwen
rewind.
scenes.
This is all footage that is not in the movies. Yeah, that never happened. Oh, look at
Yep, that never
her
happened.
fighting alongside Aragorn at Helm's Deep.
Yeah, wow, all this stuff.
Look at the clever editing. Oh my gosh. Is that the shot where she's in the movie itself?
Yeah, there she is. Wow. How cool. We haven't seen... You know what? There's a whole lot that we haven't seen. But Justin,
look at that outfit. We never saw that red outfit right there.
No, we never saw that red outfit. Didn't you say that it is very unlikely for the studio to pay for a 25th anniversary edition?
Yeah, as far as we heard that no one is working on the 25th anniversary, which, by the way, which is next year. Next year is the 25th anniversary of Fellowship of the Ring.
That's right.
And we have no rumors or whispers that anyone's working on it. I don't believe we saw this scene either. Wow, look at that dress.
Not quite like that. Oh my gosh, there's a whole bunch of stuff here.
There's a whole bunch of dresses we've never seen. What is he showing her? There's a whole lot between Elrond and Arwen that was never in the movie.
Well, in The Return of the King, in both the regular and
wait,
editions,
hold up, Cliff.
There's a big change.
What
in
is
her dress.
this? What is this?
That is, guess who's talking to each other? Grandma and granddaughter.
Wait, when would this have taken place in the movie timeline?
This probably, honestly, that would have taken place after Aragorn died, and she was left alone to wander through the woods of Lothlorien, which is where she went. So yeah, that would be after Aragorn died when we saw that flash forward to her weeping over the sarcophagus. And then she goes to live out her final days in Lothlorien. Yeah, now we've seen that. We've seen that dress and those shots before.
Yeah.
Wow.
But this outfit, that's the Helm's Deep outfit. Oh man, that
Yeah.
looks so cool.
Yeah, it does.
She's fighting right alongside Aragorn there.
And not wearing any armor. Wow. This is super cool.
Wild. Let's take a look. Liv Tyler and Viggo Mortensen in a publicity photo.
Yep. That was printed in like People magazine. Wowzer browser.
And of course, we never got to see the full wedding of Faramir and Éowyn.
Gosh, that would have been so cool to see that.
So, Cliff,
You're right. You know, TD Matthew is correct. Absolutely. Galadriel would no longer be in Middle-earth after Aragorn's death. So I stand corrected. That could be, maybe it was a moment when Arwen left, just left Rivendell and went over to Lothlorien to hang out with her grandma for the remainder of the War of the Ring, while Frodo and Sam were still struggling across Mordor to get the ring to Mount Doom.
All right,
I'm glad you mentioned that, chat. Thank you for the live chat.
Our final thing today, Cliff, I wanted to get your reaction to this because this was incredible.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh wow, that didn't work.
Thank you, Chris, in the chat.
Oh, where did it go? Hold on. So
Where'd what go?
I was on Reddit and I got an ad for War of the Rohirrim now streaming on Max, and look at the ad on Instagram.
Tell me.
It says, "Oops, that ended quick."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, spoiler.
People didn't know what was going to happen to Freka, so that surprised a lot of people, and it should. That's the inciting incident of the whole screenplay. That is the inciting incident.
Here it is. So this is what I want to talk about. Cliff, you just said how awesome that book is.
It's so cool.
The art. So let me ask you this.
I mean, look at this. In with Japanese notes in red, they have the Battle of Edoras on page 154, and there's a map at the very top, this inset map, and I don't know if you can even see it, guys. Do you see that? And it shows the directions of where an invading army would come from, and the direction where any fugitives or survivors would make egress out of the city limits. And it's all right here. This is just the coolest. This book has the coolest stuff, and it is called The Art of the War of the Rohirrim. It is so worth it. And
well, let me ask you this. Would you like a book like this? Because I saw this as an ad. And again, it said, Untold Legend comes to life. This was an ad on Reddit. But then I saw one of 6. So I clicked through, and check this out, Cliff. They're doing ads for War of the Rohirrim as comic book pages.
That's pretty cool. I haven't seen that.
Would you like a War of the Rohirrim graphic novel?
Yeah, that would be cool. I love graphic novels so much. I'm
they did a whole
avid reader.
They did a whole 6 pages of this.
Yep, they did, because you know what? Comics are popular. Manga is popular. And maybe it's because the popularity of manga, and this was produced in Japan, that might be the connecting tissue that they're trying to reach manga fans and say, you've got to check out. This is such a badass movie.
But
spoilers.
This particular movie really lends itself to the graphic novel, like comic book format, doesn't it?
In a way, it does. Yeah. I would agree. That's pretty cool.
Like, this just is super cool. I would buy a hardcover graphic novel of War of the Rohirrim if it's laid out like this, the entire story.
I think that's a surprising thing. I'm glad you found it, because I haven't even seen that at all. It's really cool.
So, I don't know. I really like this ad. I feel like why did they wait to make this like this for the Max streaming edition? Like, this is just great. I would buy a whole book that is a graphic novel version. Cliff, do you remember when we were growing up, almost every single movie had a children's book or a novelization version, didn't it?
Yes.
There were picture books of An American Tale. A bunch of
Oh my
novels.
God, I remember. Yeah, I remember. They were so popular. I remember those. Those are really cool.
So would you buy a graphic novel of War of the Rohirrim, the entire movie?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know exactly my nephew who I would give it to as a gift. Absolutely. That's so cool.
Zap says, I wonder how that type of illustration is done. Zap, these aren't illustrations, are they, Cliff? They're freeze frames from the movie.
They are actual moments from the finished production of the motion picture.
These are stills. These are literal stills, freeze frames from the movie.
Yeah. However, this one you're showing right now, there's different dialogue before Helm decides to tell Wolf that he is banished. There's extra dialogue before that moment happens. So that's a bit of a different thing.
Right. So anyway, I just thought that was cool. But yeah.
It is. It's beyond cool. And there's a marketplace for it, so why don't they make them? That'd be totally cool.
All right. Well, just to recap, we showed you a comic book version of War of the Rohirrim that they're advertising with. There are pictures floating around of everything that is not in Peter Jackson's movies. Warner Brothers will replace any old DVDs that might be looking like this. This is Jamie Bauer posting from Paris Fashion Week, looking so stylish. Could he be Celeborn? Could he be the Witch King? Could he be Glorfindel? Or could he be Celeborn using Glorfindel's story yet again? And of course, we led the show with the big green dragon gossip of the day, Cliff.
Very exciting.
Benedict Wong possibly joining.
Wong is so super badass. I love him, and I'm excited to see him come into the show. I think that's really super cool. And the other big surprise that we got was this was a gift from Ms. Bourgeois. And I have to say, thank you. Thank you for this amazing hardcover book. It was written by our dear friend and family member of the OneRing.net, Daniel Falconer from Weta Workshop. Super cool book. And it is, like it says in the back cover, armed with a wealth of fascinating facts and unique imagery. This book is the ultimate insider's guide to this groundbreaking addition to the Lord of the Rings filmmaking saga. Really great stuff. Thank you, Daniel Falconer, for putting that book together. Thank you, Jen, for the wonderful gift. That's very kind of you. And you know what? Yes, it's time for a very brief moment. We're ready to close the show, so let's close the show with a Miyazaki minute. Have you got my lower third ready, Justin?
Oh boy.
Where's my lower third?
Here we go.
Okay, get that lower third up. Give me that Miyazaki minute. Here we go. Okay? It is actually announced earlier this morning that Princess Mononoke is being re-released for the first time ever with a 4K digital transfer, completely remastered in 4K ultra high def. Princess Mononoke is now actually happening on IMAX theaters nationwide, all through North America and Canada, on one day only, March 26th. I've already got my ticket, and I've got my ticket at the Universal Studios IMAX, which is the biggest screen in Los Angeles County, besides the one at the Howard Hughes Center. But that's right, Mononoke Hime, suddenly, not just that old and gray, deteriorated old Blu-ray that you've been watching from Miramax for years, but now complete 4K restoration. For the first time ever, this is going to happen. Audiences are almost all sold out. Get your tickets for March 26th to see Princess Mononoke, and also a very quick acknowledgement to the 40th anniversary of the movie that started it all for me, Naushka of the Valley of the Wind. That's right, 40th anniversary right now, ladies and gentlemen, of Miyazaki's great adaptation of his own manga. Keep in mind, this was a multi-volume manga that went on and on and on for many, many volumes, and Miyazaki himself did the adaptation himself of his own manga comic book, and that gave us the masterpiece of cinema, which is his version of Dune. And believe me, Frank Herbert and ecological concerns are written all over Naushka. We're talking about 40th anniversary of Naushka of the Valley of the Wind. Great English voice cast, including Sir Patrick Stewart. Really awesome voice actors in that. So congratulations, Naushka, for your 40th anniversary. And I'm very happy to be one of those audience members who gets to go see Princess Mononoke on IMAX in its first ever 4K upscale. So excited about this. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Torn Tuesday. Thank you for that Miyazaki Minute, and thank you for all things glorious in anime in the world of the Lord of the Rings, because we're out of time. If you haven't even seen it, get Max, get your trial membership to HBO Max, and you can watch The War of the Rohirrim and see this amazing anime film. It's really cool stuff. So now we're off to the races. Congratulations, Benedict Wong, and we can't confirm it officially yet, but I just want to say that's the best Green Dragon gossip we've had in a long time. And I say welcome, Benedict, to the cast of The Rings of Power, unofficially, of course. So we say goodnight to everyone, as we always do. We will be here next Tuesday again at 5 p.m. Pacific Time. You can follow me on socials at Blue Sky and at Instagram as QuickBeam2000, and look for us on Discord. TheOneRing.net has a great Discord server. Join us. It's going to be a fantastic time. Great conversations, like the really wonderful conversations we had here. And yeah, Jimmy, I know, if they're going to include Glorfindel, yeah, it would be amazing if they did, but I got a funny feeling that they're going to use the element of Celeborn already been mentioned, and therefore Celeborn's the guy who's going to show up in seasons 3, 4, and 5 of The Rings of Power. But onward and forward, everybody. We'll see you next week. And I have a wonderful story that we just posted about Bruce Hopkins. He is our guest. Last week, we had a great spontaneous interview with Bruce Hopkins, who played Gamling. And you can look at the lead story right now on the front page of theonering.net. Check it out. Until next week, I will see you guys.
Programming note.
Is there one more? One more program note.
He just said until next week, and that's right. Next week, I just got confirmation. Next week, we begin the annual tradition of Middle-earth March Madness. That's right.
Nice.
The staff of the OneRing.net have debated and dialogued for many, many weeks, and they've narrowed it down to 64 contestants, 64 options for the Middle-earth March Madness bracket. If you're unfamiliar, March Madness is a college basketball thing that happens every March here in the States, and it starts with 64 teams, and it goes all the way down to a national champion. We do that, Middle-earth March Madness, and every year we have a different theme. This year's theme, as we announced from Sideshow Studios a couple weeks ago, is the art of Middle-earth. and we have 64 wonderful pieces of original art from some of your favorite artists, the brothers
And
Hildebrandt.
it's been curated beautifully. It really has been.
And so we are going to debut that next Torn Tuesday. It's going to be an extra long show, so bring a blanket, get some snacks, because we're going to show you some incredible artwork. We're going to be debating, not debating, but we're just going to be highlighting the values that you should feel when approaching artwork of different styles from different artists from the last 80 years. And we're all going to vote on them together next week. So next Tuesday is the beginning of Middle-earth March Madness, and we're going to go through 64 pieces of art from Middle-earth.
So fantastic. And my hat is off, my retro 80s hat. My hat is off to you, so you can see the shiny cue ball. That's all I got left, this shiny pate. I want to say thank you. And my hat is off to you, to all the hardworking staff, Jim Wirt and Green Dragon and others who work behind the scenes to curate this year's March Madness. It's going to be phenomenal. That's right, it starts next week. And one last programming note, we are all going to be there at WonderCon in Anaheim on the end of the month, last weekend of this month, March 28, 29, and 30th. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to close out March with a big couple of presentation panels at WonderCon. It's going to be so cool. Please get your day badge or your all 3-day weekend badge and come and join us at Anaheim Convention Center at WonderCon. And we'll see you guys there. As I'd like to do at the end of every show, I say good night and good luck. Or better yet, buenos noches y buena suerte. Good night, everybody. Thank you.